Black Eye Perspective.
What should we know from day one?
Yeah, I mean, this was a jam-packed day. I got out of court about 5 minutes ago. We heard from 17 witnesses today that took the stand, and they ranged from people who were right on the scene, those officers from the Susquehanna Police Department. We heard from some of the EMT crews on the scene. We heard from forensic experts. We also heard from those who had prior interactions with Sonya McKnight, some even saying that they received calls from Michael McCoy's phone when it was actually potentially a female on the other line. The district attorney, Sean McCormack with Cumberland County, was trying to make the argument that was Sonya McKnight. But today, what we heard first is we heard the opening statement. So I want to run you through what we heard from both the defense as well as the Commonwealth. So the Commonwealth, they kicked off their opening statement with, quote, "Oh, so you're serious." Gave a little bit of background as to McKnight and McCoy's relationship, how it was coming to an end. And she didn't really know if this was, they said that this felt different. Whereas on the defense, they started there saying, quote, "I want to be very clear. Sonya McKnight did not shoot Michael McCoy." So we're here outside the courthouse. We're waiting for McKnight to come out. Actually, this is her coming through security right now. So we're going to be able to see her live coming out of the courthouse. But I want to continue talking a little bit about what happened today. She was pretty quiet, coming in. This is her coming through the doors right now. That is Sonya McKnight with her, white hair. She's wearing a trench jacket holding that tea. That's her coming out. We're rolling on this, right? So this is her coming out day one of her trial. She is facing attempted homicide charges as well as aggravated assault. So that's her walking to her car now.
So I want to thank you and welcome to each and every one of you for joining us. We've got a packed show today. Thank you for joining us. This is the Lockhart Radio Podcast, and I am your host, Felicia Lockhart. So what are we looking at on the screen right now? We are going to return right to this. I have so much stuff to share with you guys, but let me first of all tell you why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because there's always these major outcries in different communities with regards to, really hoping that we get people that look like us to really be in positions to do great things and all of this. And what I want to do is show you guys just a little bit of how, these women that we're covering, how wild it is. How three powerful Black women, each are standing at the top of their game, ended up tangled in the same exact type of net, relationships that dearly cost them. Now, I called it when your sneaky link costs you everything, because people think that they're getting away with things, whether it's an outright relationship or if it's something that, nobody knows about and it's being done behind closed doors. So that's the reason why we've named it. That's wonderful, catchy little title there. And it's a lesson, because the woman that you're looking at right here, Sonya McKnight, and then Fani Willis later, and then LaToya Cantrell, they all had success. They all had respect. They all had the authority in their hands. But the common denominator in their downfall, which is ironic, because if you look at all of the famous men in the past, all the way back from biblical times with, Samson and Delilah, they've all fallen because of a woman. So what my storyline for us today is, I don't think it has anything to do with it being a man. I think it has everything to do with corruption in power. That when a person is in power, this is what happens. So we're going to go ahead and take a look and finish up this. I'm going to be panning in and out while these videos are going to show you pictures of the individuals that they're mentioning, because it takes a lot to try to find some of the victims' photos. And I don't know why, but you should be able to see the person that this individual hurt. Nonetheless, let's get back into it.
the reporters continuing to follow her, ask her questions. But yeah, so, I'll open up to you for any questions about what else happened. Yeah. Pretty eventful as we got to see her coming out of the courthouse live here.
Yeah, so the big moment that this case might come down to is the shooting itself. Did they get into trying to describe what happened at that moment from the description that each side is trying to portray? Go ahead.
So what I think was really interesting that what they broke down today was gunshot residue, who had it on them, who didn't have it on them. So what we did here is from a forensic expert that broke down what happened. So what I think is really interesting is that what the evidence shows is that Michael McCoy had a positive test for gunshot residue on his hands, whereas Sonya McKnight had both a positive and an inconclusive result. But what's really interesting, what we haven't heard before, is Sonya McKnight actually, what an officer testified, is that while they were in the house, she used the restroom and actually washed her hands before they were able to get any of that gun residue off of her. And then when they went back to the police station, another detective testified that while Sonya was currently still wearing what she was wearing at the scene, they asked her to change so that they could take that in for testing. And during that, her camisole fell into the toilet while she was getting changed. So that was then sent out for testing. But just really interesting that the shorts she was wearing tested positive for gunshot residue, whereas the top that fell in the toilet, that was inconclusive.
Okay. Hey, it's just the start of this. We're glad that you're going to be covering it for us all week long. Elise Person at the big trial of the week for Sonya McKnight, the judge on trial for attempted homicide. We will keep an eye on this for you and give you updates on air and online all week long.
All right. So we saw that story. A great opportunity for somebody to make a change and make a difference. And so we just started with her, which is Sonya McKnight out of Pennsylvania. Back in 2015, she was elected as the magisterial district judge in Harrisburg. Now, here's the thing. Pennsylvania doesn't even require that judges at that level have to be attorneys. They can just be certified. And she took that path to the bench. But her career came crashing down in 2024 when she shot her lover. She shot him. Let me show you the man that she shot. This is the dude right here. All because this fella told her, look, I'm a little tired of you, and I think it's just time for us to break it off. Handsome couple they were. Handsome couple. And she's an older woman who is a really attractive lady. He's an attractive man. They look like they made a really good couple. But this dude came to her and said, hey, look, I'm a little tired of this relationship. Things are getting out of hand. For whatever the reason. For whatever the reason, he decided that he was done. And, like a woman scorned, obviously, in this case, allegedly, she decided, I don't want any more to do with you. Your services are no longer needed. So I'm just going to let you go. And she shot him in the head, allegedly. Okay. But, what you just saw is what you just saw. So they did have sentencing for her. And I'm going to let you see the sentencing. But she shot him in the head while he was sleeping. The man survived but lost an eye. And in April of 2025, she was convicted of attempted murder and just weeks later sentenced to up to 30 years in prison. Now, that's a long fall from being one of the ones who had justice to hand out, to others, to standing in the front of the bench herself. And it all came down because of a relationship that she could not let go of. She just couldn't let it go. So now what I want you to see is the article right here. Let you see this. Good morning to everyone as you come in. Hello. All right, so let me add this for you. And let's check it out. That would be a good conversation to have. And I know people will be all like, oh, well, Felicia is always against her own people. I'm not against my own people. I really am tired. I'm exhausted. And I just want to see my people, as it were, if we're going to use that as a phrase. I want to see us do better. And I don't think it's easy to sit back and hear people complain that they don't have a pathway into success and a pathway into making things better within their community. And then once they do get those opportunities, they sort of squander them. And I can't say sort of, they literally squander them. That's a problem for me. And so, yeah, some would feel like I'm hard on my own community, which I'm not. I am just one of those people who genuinely have love for us. And I believe that for anybody to be a part of a civilization or a community or wherever you are, no matter what your belief systems are, you've got to be able to, at least have some sense of moral dignity or a moral compass. And some of the women that we're looking at today, for example, did not execute wise judgment. Now, we're going to slide on down to Miss Fani Willis, the first Black woman to serve as a district attorney of Fulton County, highly educated, Howard University undergrad, then Emory Law. And her father raised her by himself. He was an attorney and now a former Black Panther. So she grew up in a world of law, justice, and activism. And she built her reputation in the RICO prosecutions. That's what she did. And even bringing down educators in the Atlanta school cheating scandal, if most of you guys remember that. Then she came back to her biggest case yet, which is what actually put her in the limelight and put her where others in the United States would know who she was. And that was against, at the time, former President Donald Trump and the 2020 election interference. And I believe that there was interference. So that's just my personal opinion, of which I have the right to say. There was a lot of it. But now, while leading that case, it came out that she was romantically involved with Nathan Wade, the very, very special prosecutor that she hired. And he was still technically married when they got together. If you guys remember, we covered that story ad nauseum because there was so much content to cover. Where the wife had even asked in one of the articles that I had read to you guys, the wife had even asked her to please let us be for a minute. I know y'all, trying to do what you just let us be so we can try to fix what's left. And of course, she didn't want to do that because, well, people who have temper tantrums and think more of themselves than they ought want everything for themselves. And that's what she did. So now there were no shots fired and there was no money missing per se, other than a couple of things that we remember hearing about for the monies that were supposed to be used for COVID being used to cover employees or something like that. But perception is everything. And a judge ruled that it created the appearance of impropriety, the relationship that she had with Wade. Now, Wade did go on to resign, but not after taking a whole boatload of money with him. And then suddenly her credibility was right on trial alongside of Trump's. So it wasn't her legal mind in question at all. It was her personal decisions. And again, our topic, the sneaky link, her sneaky link. There he is. The piece de resistance. She just couldn't resist him. I loved you, baby. But you know I got a wife. I don't care. I can get rid of her. Watch. I'm just going to hang around. All right, let me stop. And let me give you guys the next story that we need to share. So I'll go ahead and pull that up for you. And we are going to be dealing with Miss Fani Willis because there's been a lot of stuff. I mean, this lady has gone so far as to refuse to go to, at one time, refuse to go to Washington and sit down and talk, and then refuse to do anything that has been asked of her. Now, I do see that there's something by Judicial Watch recently that populated that stated that, she went on ahead and admitted what was going on. But I want to show you here where the Georgia Appeals Court disqualified her. And then we'll go on to more news about her. Hold on just a second. We're going to see her in her most defiant of ways. Very defiant chick.
Tonight, the massive legal win for President-elect Trump in his Georgia election interference case. A Georgia appeals court kicking District Attorney Fani Willis off the case over the appearance of a conflict of interest due to her relationship with the special prosecutor in the investigation.
I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial.
The ruling, the latest twist in a winding tale of money, romance, and allegations of election interference. Willis forced to acknowledge a relationship she had with the special prosecutor she appointed to the case, Nathan Wade, and facing allegations she benefited from the relationship by accompanying him on lavish trips funded by payments from her office. Willis taking the stand herself in an explosive disqualification hearing.
I don't need anything from a man. A man is not a plan. A man is a companion. And so there was tension always in our relationship.
Insisting the two split costs and that she repaid him for many expenses, but always in cash.
You never wrote him a check? Ma'am, I don't have checks.
You don't have a single.
Are you guys saying that you don't have any sound right now? I see some people are saying no sound. Do you guys have sound right now? All right. Okay. I guess that means you do. So let me go ahead and finish. Mods, are we 5 by 5?
Solitary deposit slip to corroborate or support any of your allegations that you were paid by Mrs. Willis in cash, do you?
No, sir.
Not a single solitary one.
Not a one.
Willis's testimony about her relationship with Wade, at times unusual.
Mr. Wade is used to women that, as he told me one time, the only thing a woman can do for him is make him a sandwich.
Willis's testimony about her relationship with Wade recalled birthday celebrations and trips they shared.
I spent $900 on each of our tickets to go to Belize. They would pair champagne, chocolate, and caviar. I did 50 big, very big.
But other combative moments earning her this rebuke from the judge.
All right, let me stop for a second, because did you hear her say that she had chocolate, strawberries, basically chocolate, wine, and, Belize and all this stuff, and that she did 50 very big? How could his wife had even competed with something like that? Because the wife was ill, and not only was the wife ill, she was probably exhausted from his previous situations. She probably couldn't swing anymore. So when she went to her like a woman and said, hey, can you please just back off so we can try to fix what remains? That right there is very telling, that she would be so bold as to say, hey, he didn't want to split the money, or he didn't want to do this or that, and this is how I went out. What wife can at that stage, at that point, what wife could even compete with that? And what kind of heartless individual first off steps into a relationship with somebody who's already got a spouse, regardless if they are still, happy together or not? And then another thing is, how could anybody with any type of heart hear somebody say, hey, step off, and then you're not going to do it? And this person has been with this husband or wife for X amount of years. What kind of person? A heartless individual. A heartless individual that does not have any sense of moral compass. A person who doesn't care about others, who only wants their way, which is the reason why her personality is the way that it is. When you see her get a document coming from the federal government saying, we need you to show up here and we need you to talk, when the very state that gave her licensure has a board that's saying, hey, we need you to come here, we need you to talk, she won't do it. That's the heartless, narcissistic, I am God type of woman, type of man. That is how corrupt people, when they ain't got no money, become even more corrupt when they get some money. Okay, that's how that happens.
Judge.
It's going to be my first time out to caution, and we have to listen to the questions as asked. And if this happens again and again, I'm going to have no choice but to strike your testimony.
Judge Scott McAfee ultimately decided to allow Willis to stay on the case, despite what he called a tremendous lapse in judgment, saying that although there was an appearance of a conflict, the defense did not fully prove there was one. But tonight, a Georgia Court of Appeals ruling Willis should be wholly disqualified from the case, saying the appearance of a conflict is enough. The ruling throwing into turmoil what some experts once considered the most legally perilous of Trump's 4 criminal cases, a sprawling indictment on racketeering charges, over Trump's alleged attempts to overturn the 2020 election. And
let's stop again, not just because we have to when we're using other people's content, but because I feel it's necessary to point out the fact that Fani Willis was one of those people who ran to the Black church every single time she needed validation for the trash that she did. And while she was at those churches, don't forget, those individuals that were there were all in favor of whatever it was that she was doing, because if they weren't, they wouldn't have had somebody take their pulpit and, share what she felt about him on the screen or anything else. She wanted to show them that she was defiant, and she was defiant on purpose. But isn't it odd that the people who were actually dealing with her said, hey, it was the very appearance? She went into a church, and doesn't the word say, isn't the Bible scripture that talks about to avoid the very appearance of evil? Avoid the very appearance of evil. And this is a woman who constantly ran into the church to get shelter every time she wanted somebody to see and think that she was okay. Every time she wanted to show, look how good I am, I go to church. I go to church. And the very appearance of evil is what she refused to abstain from. Bold. But I guarantee you, her next few years are not going to be easy as she thinks.
Georgia.
We look at the facts, we look at the law, and we bring charges.
Willis's office accused Trump of pressuring officials to reverse President Biden's win in the Peach State, pointing to this now infamous call with Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
The indictment leading to a stunning moment in American history, the first mugshot of a former president. Trump joined by 18 co-defendants, a constellation of election attorneys and former administration officials who Willis said conspired to pull off the election heist.
She's been exposed. I can't imagine they can continue on with that case.
Willis's office plans to appeal this new decision to the Georgia Supreme Court. But if Willis remains off the case, a prosecutor from a different county may pick up the prosecution. That process could be lengthy to revive a case now on life support.
Vaughn Hilliard joins us once again from West Palm Beach, Florida. So, Vaughn, as this case sort of winds through the legal system, as you alluded to there at the end of your report, have we heard from President-elect Trump and his team about this ruling from the appeals court?
We have heard from a spokesman for the now president-elect who said that on November 5th, American voters made their decision and called for the end of, as the spokesman put it, the end of political prosecutions. Of course, we'll wait to see whether the Georgia Supreme Court ultimately puts the district attorney, Fani Willis, back on this case. But for now, this is another legal victory for Donald Trump, his team, and a setback for those who sought to hold Donald Trump accountable for what they said was election interference dating back to the 2020 campaign. Tom?
All right, Vaughn Hilliard, we thank you for that. For more on what this means for the election fraud case against President-elect Trump, NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos joins us now on set. Danny, we were just talking as we listened to sort of that greatest hits from that one day when she was questioned. You're not surprised by this. Will she appeal this?
She will appeal it, and I'm not surprised. And I wasn't surprised back when Judge McAfee gave his opinion, and here's why. Judge McAfee concluded on the one hand that Willis's and Wade's testimony was very problematic. He said it had the odor of mendacity, Tom. Now, Tom, I looked up the word mendacity, and it's bad. It means not truthful. It means dishonest, right? I'm sure you knew that. Yeah. I didn't. But that you can't make that conclusion and then conclude, well, my remedy is that either you're all disqualified or here's an alternative. That one prosecutor, Wade, as long as he goes, everything is fine. From the outset, that was a problematic resolution. It was saying two things at the same time, that the level of dishonesty was significant, but also the remedy doesn't even involve getting rid of the DA, that you had trouble with her testimony. Yeah. So I am not surprised that the appellate court arrived at this conclusion because they took the original factual findings and said, this is the proper outcome. Now, can reasonable minds disagree? Absolutely. That's why maybe they have a shot when they take it to the next and last stop, which is the Supreme Court, Georgia.
I want to put this up on the screen for our viewers so they can see this. This case obviously doesn't just involve Donald Trump, right? Fani Willis has been working years on this. It involves several defendants, okay? A total of 15, I think, who have pleaded not guilty, along with 4 defendants that agreed to plead guilty. Here it is, to some charges and cooperate with the government. Would a new prosecutor be starting from scratch here? I mean, what happens?
So now this case is essentially adrift with no one at the helm. You have to find a prosecutor's office because it wasn't just Willis that was disqualified. Her entire office was disqualified. So even though the indictment was not tossed, it's a case without a shepherd. There's nobody dragging this case through the process. It is truly adrift. So they need to find someone, whether the attorney general or another prosecutor is willing to take the case. And if you're an elected official, how interested are you in taking over this garbage fire that has become the case in Atlanta? Probably not.
So the big question, Danny, we have a president-elect coming in. Okay, this has just happened. Is this case done? Is this over?
In my opinion, this case was done the minute that hearing that we watched started. This case is in huge trouble. They have no prosecutor. And then even then, they have challenges with the case anyway. This is a jurisdiction that took 8 months to select a jury in a much less infamous trial. This is a place where I think Donald Trump, this case, I've been saying this for a while now. It goes away. I don't know how it's going to go away because there are so many off-ramps for Trump and the other defendants. But one way or another, I think eventually this case goes bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top.
A judge has ordered Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis to pay more than $54,000 for violating the Open Records Act. The judge found the Fulton County DA's office was openly hostile to defense attorney Ashley Merchant and didn't handle her requests in good faith. Merchant represents a co-defendant in the election interference case. She wanted a copy of confidentiality agreements signed by DA's office employees and a list of attorneys hired by Willis. Today, the judge gave Willis 30 days to pay Merchant $54,000 in attorney's fees and turn over those requested files. There's no comment yet from Willis's office.
$54,000 is what it costs because she is so defiant, willingly and openly defiant. She does nothing that she's told to do. She has absolutely no regard for the rule of law. And I find it amazing. But in as much as I find it amazing, I want you to know that she was spotted again with this guy. The same guy that cost her everything because in her opinion, we're just friends. And let you see the report on this.
The state Senate committee investigating Fulton County DA Fani Willis says it is running out of patience with the lead prosecutor.
In the meantime, Willis and former special prosecutor Nathan Wade are making headlines once again after a media outlet published video that claims to show them together at Los Angeles International Airport. Let's get out to Fox 5's Deidre Dukes, who has the latest tonight from the state capitol. Deidre?
The special Senate committee investigating Fulton County DA Fani Willis says they are prepared to take her to court or issue another subpoena if she doesn't appear to testify in late April or early May. Wednesday's hearing comes after the Daily Mail posted an article which featured video footage of a couple at LAX airport who they identify as Fulton County DA Fani Willis and former special prosecutor Nathan Wade. Willis came under fire for having a romantic relationship with Wade after she hired him to lead the 2020 Trump election interference case. Last year, Wade resigned his position after a Fulton County judge ruled that one of them had to step away from the case because of the appearance of impropriety, even though the two testified that they were no longer dating. The Senate committee began looking into accusations of potential conflicts of interest and the misuse of state funds after Willis denied allegations that she benefited financially from her relationship with Wade.
The DA has thumbed her nose at this committee.
Committee members expressed frustration with the DA, who has fought their efforts to force her to testify.
This has been going on now for many months. We issued our subpoenas back in September of 24. We're now 6 months later, and we haven't gotten her to comply, even though the judge has ordered it. And, we're fed up with that. She is not above the law. And I think that there are legal processes to force her to comply. And yes, that does include confinement. And I'm not threatening that. That's up to the judge to do if she fails to comply.
Former Georgia Governor Roy Barnes is representing DA Willis. Committee Chair Bill Calzert says the committee is trying to work with the DA's schedule and will give Barnes some possible dates for Willis to appear.
Hopefully we'll resolve this and she'll begin to respond to the legal process like she expects defendants in her court to do.
Willis's attorney issued a written statement Wednesday afternoon saying, quote, The DA and special committee have not reached an agreement to testify, and the district attorney continues to challenge the witness subpoena in court. She has agreed to produce certain already publicly produced documents and will do so at an appropriate time. Deidre Dukes, Fox 5 News.
The appropriate time. So the appropriate time is to do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it. Again, I believe she came into this position specifically for Trump. I do. I don't believe that all of the people they said voted for her, and this is my opinion, voted for her. But with that in mind, I want to, okay, so we saw where they said that, $54,000 for the Ashley Merchant situation and the court costs and fees. Ashley Merchant is a bulldog. I love that lady. She knows her stuff. She holds great positions. And as far as Atlanta is concerned, she has a lot of respect in that area, as well as, throughout the whole entire judicial type of circumstance, if you will. But nonetheless, before we go, I want to, not before we go, but before we move forward, I'm going to toggle back, because that last judge who said that, hey, he was in the house and he was asleep, but I didn't shoot him. I want to let you know that they sentenced her to 13 years for shooting him. So we're going to take a glance at that. I want you to see it. And then we're going to move on to a story that is really got a lot of stuff in it. And I think that this next story that we're going to talk about, once we get on past these, it's going to tell us a lot about how corrupt people can really be. So let's go on ahead here and look at this. I hope everybody is well. Oh, and welcome to our two newest mods, Zach Diecast Mansour, as well as our little chirpy bird. A bird chirps. So we have two new mods, and I just want to say welcome to both of them. All right, so let's get on with this. If I can find it. Here you go.
We are coming to you with breaking news out of Dauphin County. Former Dauphin County Judge Sonya McKnight has been sentenced after being convicted for attempted murder and aggravated assault. Thank you for joining us right here at noon. I'm Candace Scalise. CBS 21's Fatima Moen was in that courtroom today, and she explains how long.
Now, this is for folks who did not see it.
Sonya McKnight has been sentenced to 13.5 to 30 years in prison for shooting her ex-boyfriend. While in court, she also announced her resignation to her judgeship duties. McKnight's defense attorney, Corey Leshner, called 7 witnesses to present their final comments on McKnight's character and service to the county. However, Judge Howard Ninsley made it known on the record he found her not guilty. The 57-year-old will now return to the Dauphin County Prison with the time she's served to count towards her final sentencing. Judge Ninsley explained that the new sentencing guidelines actually work to benefit McKnight for her 2 charges of attempted murder and aggravated assault. McKnight shot her boyfriend Michael McCoy in his Susquehanna Township home back in February of 2024. The shooting partially blinded McCoy. McCoy testified that he woke up in extreme pain and that McKnight was the only other person in the house at the time of the shooting. McKnight and her defense team now has 10 days to file a post-sentence motion, which means that the defense can now challenge that final sentencing verdict. Now, the judge has 120 days to accept it or deny. Reporting in Harrisburg, Fatima Moen, CBS 21 News.
Now, there's another story that I really want you guys to see, because in that story is some other things that come to light about that specific judge. And I think that's the one that I thought that I was showing. But nonetheless, I'm glad everybody else got to see it that didn't get a chance to see it. But here's the deal. This chick literally pulled a gun on her former husband. She has been involved in other indiscretions, things that you would sort of raise your eyebrows with. I have to find that. So let me do this, you guys. I'm going to take a quick break because I think you all need to see this. See, these are patterns. These aren't just individuals who are just brand new at, fucking shit up, excuse my French, but it just ain't. These are folks who are constantly rolling around in the trash. And these are the people who are constantly running around with their fists up, talking about Black power, Black Lives Matter, do everything for the Black people, and let us in. You guys won't let us do this or that. And it's not that. It's the fact that you are corrupt. And if you are corrupt, you shouldn't be in a position. Your position does not give you the authority and the right to do wrong. And I don't see where people don't get it. I don't get it personally. I mean, I couldn't. Hey, you know what? I'm going to tell you guys this, because this is the truth right here. I take it serious when I get a specific job. If I get a job, I take that serious. I look at the rules and I make sure that I follow those rules. I don't get why these chicks can't, but I need to find that story for you guys. So I'm going to give you a commercial break. Find that story because you need to hear this. How many things this lady did prior to that. See, what happened was she got away with one thing, then got away with another thing, and it made her feel like she could do no wrong. We'll be right back. Hey everyone, it's me, Felicia, of the Lockhart Perspective and Headlines with a Voice. I want to tell you a little secret. This is what I used to do because I don't do it anymore. I would go to the store, buy the barbecue sauce, pour it inside of a bowl, put a whole bunch of different spices, a dash of brown sugar, a dash of maple, and a dash of mustard, stir it all around, and everybody would be like, oh my gosh, this is the best, this is the best. But I was exhausted after all of that, and a lot of times I couldn't remember how many dashes of what I put in it. But I don't have to do that anymore because now I just go to Judge Joe Brown's website and I order his 3-pack of bottled barbecue sauce. It is by far the best, and I do mean the best barbecue sauce I've ever eaten. And when you go to his website and you order his 3-pack, you'll see exactly what I mean. Head on over to jjbbbbq.com and order Judge Joe Brown's barbecue sauce. You'll be glad you did, and you're going to tell me about it. I know you will. All right, you guys, I found one story that I think we might be able to look at, and I appreciate your time. I know you guys got things to do, and so I'm going to try to hurry up as best I can. But here is one of them. I wish I could find that one that talked about her husband. Hopefully this is, all right, here we go. I know they're going to talk about her child because she did something and stepped in a situation for one of her children. So let's hope that this particular investigation is also going to talk about what she did to her first husband.
Dauphin County judge has been suspended from her post without pay for the second time in 3 years. Fox 43's Ryan Yee joins us now to break down the allegations against District Judge Sonya McKnight and what comes next.
Yeah, District Judge Sonya McKnight's suspension has been in place since November 14th for ethical violations charged against her back in September. Now, McKnight was suspended for the first time back in 2021 after allegedly interfering with a traffic stop that involved her son, but was acquitted of all charges. Now, 7 allegations of misconduct have been filed against her that has her sidelined once again. The court documents describe 7 different allegations involving theft of time, conflict of interest, abusing her office prestige, and unexplained absences. Judge McKnight allegedly faced a conflict of interest on 2 different occasions when she presided over cases where her impartiality could be questioned. Judge McKnight did not recuse herself from a case where her personal attorney represented a defendant in a DUI-related case she presided over. She also presided over a case involving a Harrisburg City police officer that she filed a citizen's complaint against, alleging he, along with 3 other officers involved in her 2021 criminal investigation, conspired to destroy her credibility in the community. The judicial office says McKnight abused the prestige of the judicial office when she reached out to a Dauphin County contact asking to obtain a copy of the police report related to that criminal case. They say she also abused this prestige when she used her social media accounts that identify herself as a magistrate judge to sell a product named X-It Red. On March 23, 2022, Judge McKnight's clerk received a civil complaint claiming McKnight owed an individual nearly $2,100. McKnight allegedly advised her clerk to act like the complaint was never received, a misdemeanor offense of obstructing administration of the law. Lastly, Judge McKnight allegedly failed to appear for her assigned judicial duties and could not be reached between January 14th and 16th of this year. The 7 allegations have resulted in 20 counts under 9 different charges. District Judge Sonya McKnight will remain suspended until the Court of Judicial Discipline comes to a decision. If any of the charges are confirmed, possible sanctions against McKnight include suspension, fine, or removal from office. I tried reaching out to Judge McKnight's office by phone, but did not receive an answer. Ryan Yee, Fox 43 News.
All right, so that's one of the indiscretions that she had. There are others, and I really wish I could find that. I know Sandy's not in here right now. Sandy is one of my closest friends, and she's usually able to pull stuff up quicker than I can. I had it yesterday, and I did not take the link and clip it like I normally do because I thought, oh, it's going to be easy to find. Oh, well, better luck next time. But this chick was allegedly accused, and I say that loosely because I saw it myself, but she was accused of pulling a gun on her former husband. And at that time, they did investigations and they came back and said, well, there's no there. And they, dropped all those charges. But don't you know that even with what you and I just watched, don't you believe that's a bit much? Tell me in the comments right now, do you think that's a bit much right there? I mean, to me, that impropriety, all the stuff that she did, to me, should have been an indication that she was not the person, hey, Charlie, that she was not the person that needed to be a judge. Daryl Calhoun, hello. Let me stop and give some honor to those who honor is due. All right. Hello, gentlemen. Hello. I think we said hello. Hey, North Star. I didn't say hi to you, but I got to stop and say hi. And I have to stop and say hi to Miss Quarles. How are you doing? All right. Okay. Spirited Woman, if you're still here, hello. William Smith. Hello. I didn't see you all the way up here. Then again, I may have, but I don't think I did. But hello. All right. I got to stop and say hi to you guys. So for those of you who are in the replay, if this is disturbing you, I apologize. But I just have to say hi to people who stop in. I mean, you're here. And for those of you who can't actually, listen in or type in because you're working or whatever, hey to you too. All right. So don't you believe? Oh, she did? All right. Let me clap. Wonderful, Daryl. I'm so happy. I am so very happy. You guys go over and check out Daryl Calhoun's channel. It has a lot of, the stuff. He's very bold because he shows real life yard and real life walking and talking. And his wife is so sweet and so dear. And she has so many things that they're talking about. And you know what? You are so welcome, Daryl. You are so welcome, precious. If I had Mo, baby, you would have it. I really do. I really appreciate you. And for those of you guys who feel like you got to click off right now, that's okay, because I'm going to love on those who need to be loved on. It's not always about, oh, you guys love on me. No, sometimes we got to love on each other. And I've always said, and I know that Charlie is here and he remembers, I've always said, I wish that I could get everybody in one room just so that I could hug y'all's neck, just so I can give you a hug. Because this world that we live in, which is mostly social media and all of that other stuff, you never know what a person is going through. You never know how a person feels when everything you're doing from this side looks one-sided. See, this is different than television. When you're in television, you can't touch or see the people that are looking at you. Heck, half the time you don't get a counter that tells you how many viewers you have. I have a counter that tells me how many people are here. I have a counter that tells me that if a video is showing, I have this amount of people watching. And if I start speaking, I have that amount of people that start speaking, that stop or start watching. But in this realm where we are, you don't have the ability to touch people, right? This is better than TV, because at least I can see your names. And that's why I always say, I wish that I could get into a place where I could just hug y'all's neck. I can hug Sandy because Sandy is here in Alabama and we met up personally years ago and are very close now. And that's the closeness that I need in my life, that if I'm, working and dealing with people and talking to you guys every single day and presenting you guys information, I feel like I would really love to get to know you. I've gotten to know Ronnie Man. Obviously, we met here in YouTube land over maybe 10 years ago and have been friends, very close friends ever since. Steve Willis is another person who is an outstanding person. You hear me refer to him sometimes as the executive producer. We've built excellent relationships, but the one thing that I miss is that I wish that I could hug y'all. So it does my heart good. And I actually have tears right now, Daryl. It does my heart good to see that you guys are doing great. It does my heart good. I have been interceding for you and your wife, your family, everything. I have been. And so when I see reports like, she had her surgery, she's doing great, and she starts a new job, that's just, it's worth me stopping and taking the time. And because this isn't TV, I can do that. How about that? So hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I'm so happy. I am so happy. I'm going to continue to press in for you guys. Okay. That's great news. Yes, Sandy is great, isn't she? She is great. Ronnie, the man. Yes, yes, yes. All right, you guys. So let's go ahead and finish. I have some more stuff, but I just thought that I would give you guys that particular story because in my impression, that was like a lot. That's a lot for a judge to get away with. And I believe maybe, I don't know, you guys. It's just so many people that are just choosing to do the wrong thing. So what we're going to do next, okay, we've already talked about, let's look at what we've already talked about, all right? Okay, so we've already dealt with Fani, all right? And I could never be done with Miss Fani. I could never be done with her. And, I know we're not even really done with this chick, but 13 years is what they gave her. They gave her 13 years. She was a judge. She was a judge, and they've given her 13 years for shooting this poor man in the head while he slept and then saying that she didn't do it. And then they also had a lot of people that came up and tried to speak for her to get leniency. Oh, please, please, please give her leniency, they said. Please do it because she's a judge and she's been good and she's been this or that. Why should she get leniency? Because she's not built for prison? Well, she may not be built for prison, but I submit she should have thought about that before she picked up a weapon and attempted to unalive someone. I submit that because you are a judge and because you are in those situations, that means that you really have to walk with even more sternness in your prowess, and you have to walk being more ethical, if you can even use that as a term. But I believe that ethically, you need to be even more above board than anybody else. And that if you do get caught up in some mess and it's found that you are guilty, I don't think you deserve leniency. As a matter of fact, I think it's quite the contrary, that if you go out and hurt somebody like this and you are in a position of being a judge or a mayor or a lawyer or any of that, you should be held to a higher number. So if the minimum is 13 to 30 years, because you were trusted with all that you were trusted with, you deserve the 30. That's just my opinion. Now, the next individual that we're going to be looking at is Mayor Cantrell out of New Orleans. I saved her for last because her situation is a very unique situation in that her husband passed away during a very tumultuous time in her career. Yeah, let's look at it and let's understand exactly who she is, what she did, and why there should really be a deeper investigation, in my opinion, about her. All right. I think that there should be a deeper investigation where she's concerned. Will it happen? More than likely, no, because it is, past time that the circumstance happened. But we're going to go on ahead and we're going to look at it right now. I'm going to pull it up so you can see her in her situation. All right. If you guys don't know who Mayor Cantrell is, again, she's out of New Orleans, and we're going to take a look at what happened in her life. But the first thing I want you to see is her husband. Yeah. I want you to see this, and then we'll get into her story.
Charisse is off tonight. We begin tonight with the sad and sudden news that Mayor LaToya Cantrell's husband, Jason, has died. News of his death was followed by a string of tributes and condolences. And amid the outpouring of concern, Mike Perlstein spoke with one person who knew Jason as a close personal friend.
Jason was one of those carefree, fun-loving, jovial kind of people.
While most people knew Jason Cantrell as the mayor's husband or as a longtime attorney, City Council member Oliver Thomas knew him as a friend.
Jason was part of our men's group over the last couple of years, guys that would get together, play cards, play dominoes, talk trash. He was a highly respected and valuable member of our group.
Known in recent years as the city's first gentleman, Cantrell had his own legacy of community service, a tradition that began with his father, former magistrate judge Harry Cantrell.
His public service rivaled his wife's public service. If you knew Jason, man, from public defender to being out in the community.
We haven't heard anything directly from Mayor Cantrell, and her staff has asked people to please respect her privacy. But I can tell you that inside City Hall, in all departments, there is a somber mood today over this news. While no cause of death has been announced, those who knew Jason personally were aware of recent health issues, including recovery from a stroke.
The last couple of years have been challenging for him in terms of his health. And we're very sad. All the guys are sad.
In addition to his wife, Cantrell leaves behind his 15-year-old daughter, Rayanne. Jason Cantrell was 55. Mike Perlstein, Eyewitness News.
Now, his death came only months after the gentleman that you're about to learn about, his wife, Mayor Cantrell's alleged lover, filed for divorce. And after she filed for divorce, about 8 months after, between 6 to 8 months after she filed for divorce from the alleged lover of Mayor Cantrell, he passed away. Now, it's also important to note, because I'm going to, that originally there was no cause of death. And even the coroner did not give a cause of death. They waited for a great deal of time. So what ended up happening was a lot of the rumors about him having had the stroke and then having had some health issues with his heart and other stuff, they began to have a narrative that floated around that said he had a heart attack. But in as much as they said that he had a heart attack, there was never any conclusive evidence that said that he did. So that is what everyone has rested with, that he had a heart attack. Now, Mayor Cantrell was born in Compton, California, and she was raised by a working class family, bouncing her between her grandmother and her mom after her parents split up. She came up through the Xavier University, worked in nonprofits, became a neighborhood leader after Hurricane Katrina there in New Orleans, and then climbed her way all the way up to the mayor's office in 2018. Do you see? That's not long ago. The first woman to ever do it in the city's history. But here is where it unravels. She's been federally indicted on charges of fraud, conspiracy, and obstruction. Prosecutors say that she used her position to cover up an affair with her police bodyguard, Jeffrey Vappy. Vappy's wife is the woman who had filed for divorce only months before Mayor Cantrell's husband passed away. They claim she billed more than $70,000 in expenses tied to that relationship, deleted over 15,000 WhatsApp messages, and even retaliated against the people who threatened to expose her. This just is not a messy situation. It is epic. It's historic. Okay. Cantrell is the first sitting New Orleans mayor to face a federal indictment. So let's go on and look at some more information about this case as we sit together.
Welcome back at 7:45. Mayor LaToya Cantrell and her former bodyguard, Jeffrey Vappy, face an 18-count indictment. It accuses Cantrell and Vappy of conspiracy and wire fraud, and the mayor is accused of lying to a grand jury. Prosecutors say the alleged corruption, not their actual relationship, is what led to this indictment. Fox 8 legal analyst Joe Responti has been with us since this indictment came down Friday afternoon, kind of helping us understand all of the moving parts to this case. Joe, good morning. Thanks for being back with us. Let's backtrack a little bit. Prior to the indictment coming out, the name Randy Farrell was mentioned a lot in connection, possibly I should say, in connection to the mayor. Let's remind our viewers who Randy Farrell is and the legal challenges he's facing and why his stuff, if you will, was not wrapped up in the mayor's indictment.
He was a guy, he's a government contractor, and he got indicted a year or so ago. The allegations were the quid pro quo with the mayor. She wasn't named, but she was identified as public official one, where he was giving her tickets to Saints games, et cetera, and he was getting things back in return from her. So that is, in my mind, a conspiracy. And the last overt act of the conspiracy is going to be important. Like, what was the last time he got something or gave something? Either way, and whatever that date is, they have 5 years from that date. Otherwise, the statute of limitation runs out. My calculations, but I don't know everything about her, and I don't know if there was some other act. But they got to get on their horse. If they're going to charge her with anything that has to do with him, they got to do it pretty soon, or it's already passed.
Okay. And of course, people all weekend have been around the city just kind of, looking through all of these reports, reading through the indictment, because of course that is public information now. And the question, one of the many questions people have is, will this case actually go to trial? What are your thoughts on that?
It depends on LaToya Cantrell. Through this whole thing, she's taken the, spit in the eye attitude, and she said, I want him back on my detail, and I'm going to continue to travel, and all those things indicate to me that she may very well decide to go to trial. But believe me, everybody's going to trial until they're not, and they're gonna be people that are going to line up to get on Team USA to testify against her at that trial. And right now, she's kind of on the borderline in my calculations between probatable and non-probatable sentencing guidelines. Of course, it's always up to the judge, but these are some of the things she's going to have to consider.
And that's what I was going to ask you in our last few seconds here. If this case does go to trial and the mayor is found guilty during this trial, which at the time of the trial, she likely wouldn't even be mayor anymore, because it would likely take some time to get to a federal trial. Right. What type of sentence could she be potentially looking at?
Well, there's maximums, but don't worry about that stuff. The sentencing guidelines, and once again, this is just me doing it on the fly, that if she was convicted and the judge went with the sentencing guidelines, about a 2 or 3 year sentence is where she would land, because that's outside of the probatable. But if she says, I'm going to plead guilty, gets 2 to 3 points off for acceptance of responsibility, I'm getting in the weeds here, she could very well plead and get probation, and it would fit within the guidelines. But if she says no and goes to trial, then they start tacking on a couple of other things.
And it's up to the judge.
And it's up to the judge, but the guidelines would then land in that 2 to 3 year, and she could very well get a jail sentence for sure.
All right, Joe. Well, again, thank you for being with us to help.
Okay, now let's look as they close that. Let's look at this. All right, so this right here is the, okay. All right, New Orleans mayor says city services continue amid federal indictment, a new statement says. So let's take a look at this, and hopefully it won't give us any commercials, but sometimes they do. All right, and they do.
Join the millions banking.
I'm going to mute that sound. Oh, and it takes me directly to Walmart. Of course it does. Let me make
through OnePay.
You guys can see it, but it keeps taking me to Walmart. I'm sorry, you guys. Why don't you just tell us the name of the movie that you want to see?
Further describes the many steps that Cantrell and Vappy took to hide their scheme.
A romantic relationship alleged in a 48-page federal indictment implicating New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell and former bodyguard Jeffrey Vappy with felony charges.
And moments ago, the city just responded to the indictment, saying they are aware of the charges. They say the mayor is charged with at least a dozen felony crimes, including conspiracy, fraud, and obstruction of justice. We have live team coverage tonight. Let's start things off with investigative reporter Aubrey Killian, who breaks down what's in the indictment. Aubrey.
Hey there, Travers. So here at federal court, I spoke with a lot of legal experts. They say prison time is likely. In this indictment are the alleged actions of Mayor Cantrell and her ex-bodyguard, Jeffrey Vappy. She could face prison time.
For lying to the grand jury, it could be as high as 3 years.
Potentially 3 years in prison.
Correct.
Prosecutors allege Cantrell and Vappy developed a personal and intimate relationship. It's alleged that Cantrell and Vappy exploited their public positions to develop and implement a scheme.
It's pretty salacious stuff, but I think the government does it because they want the public to understand what this case is really about.
Prosecutors say they did this by using an encrypted messaging platform, intimidating and punishing subordinates, lying to colleagues, deleting evidence, and testifying falsely.
No, I would say this is a cliche, but it's always the cover up, not the crime. When I read that indictment today, unlike the initial one against Officer Vappy, there was just so many allegations of what she did to try to hide what she was doing.
The documents allege Cantrell sent Vappy the following images. There's this picture that prosecutors say surfaced at a winery in California. When asked about it, Cantrell instructed the associate to not contact my staff. In September of 2022, Cantrell canceled a trip to Miami where she was scheduled to attend the fall leadership meeting of the United States Conference of Mayors. Cantrell booked a personal trip in which she traveled alone from New Orleans to Martha's Vineyard. While Vappy was in Martha's Vineyard, this conversation apparently happened. Vappy allegedly writing, "Hey baby, I'm going with the guys." Cantrell allegedly writing, "Let me know about where for lunch to make sure I'm out of sight."
If she had just stopped and put her hands up and said, "You know what, I made a mistake," none of this would have happened. It's the doubling down, it's the attempts to hide it that seem to be, the most problematic as a person, and certainly something I'd recommend people not doing.
So it's important to note after today's indictment, this is not a conviction. Mayor Cantrell will then go to an arraignment. From there, she will enter a plea. Reporting live, I'm Aubrey Killian, WDSU Investigates.
All right. So as we come to the conclusion of our show, I'm just going to leave you with this. There are three women, and that's totally three different cities and three different stories, but the same thread that weaves through each one of these, the private choices that are turned public scandals. They're all centered around relationships with men. Judge McKnight lost her freedom. DA Fani Willis, was really in trouble, paying out the wazoo and, different lawsuits and things like that. And then she's in trouble with their state. And she may be, in danger of being disbarred. Mayor Cantrell obviously has lost her reputation. Her office is now, up in arms. They're just tossed upside down. And she's maybe even going to lose the security of her future the exact same way that the other judge did, Judge McKnight, having 13 years. And you see, every one of them have worked their way up, very different beginnings, all of them. Willis was raised by her father in D.C. Cantrell comes from Compton, California, and also has ties to New Orleans. And then McKnight climbing up to the judgeship without even having the traditional Ivy League resume. Do you realize, they could have gave me that job. I could have used them coins. Can you imagine how many of you all in the chat I could bless with them types of coins? If I had them kind of coins, I'd be blessing everybody, which is possibly the reason why I'm not able to get them kind of coins. But she didn't even have the traditional Ivy League resume. None of them were born into wealth or power. They fought for their place, but even the strongest resume can't protect you from the consequences of who you are in your private life and who you let into your private life. So what does this say? To me, it just shows that the higher you climb up, the less room you have for mistakes, especially if you are a Black woman. You should do it even better. Which is, I'm going to let you guys in on a secret. And for those of you in the chat who know what I'm about to say, they used to tell us when we were coming up, you have to be better than. Because any positioning that you get, people will doubt that you got it because you are good, you are stronger, and you are faster, and you are better. So we had to push even more coming up. We had to. My father, rest his soul, he was Air Force, worked for Hughes Aircraft, and the engineer, and led a lot of big teams. He would make sure that anytime I had to write a speech, that he sat down with me and critiqued every word that I said. He would help me write the script, write the skit, write the speech, write whatever it is that I was working on. And then he would watch me and help me and fix it. And then he would make me do it again. The same thing with my mother. As I would sing, she would stop me in the middle and make me re-say a phrase. Hold your mouth up. Smile when you say that. Why did they spend that kind of time? Because they wanted me to be the best or my best at what it was that I was presenting. And so that is the mindset and the thought process that I think of when I look at these women, especially one that didn't even have any legal background as it relates to having been an attorney, right? So when I look at that, I'm thinking, I know somebody had to be in your ear. Somebody had to be telling you to be better. And then when you became better and you did what you needed to do, why would you have to have an illicit relationship? Why wouldn't you work on your marriage and strengthen that instead of stepping out with somebody else's husband? And then why wouldn't you double back when you see the woman is both women, two women filing for divorce, and it's because of you? And then you get so bold because you get away with a little bit that you start using, WhatsApp and other stuff, other things like that, and trying to collude and trying to lie and, billing for hours and all kinds of money that you're spending that doesn't belong to you. You start doing all of those things. And for what? So now you got the court of public opinion, which in my impression does not even, need any convictions. All they need is a headline to run with it, and the rest is history. But in each one of these cases, the headlines weren't about their victories or even their policies or their accomplishments. It was all about the dudes that they were sleeping with. All about the fact that they did not know how to control their lower chakras, if you really want to be honest. They did not know how to control nothing between their waist and kneecaps. Having to control, telling a man that he ain't gonna leave. He tells you to get out of his house, and instead you wait till the brother go to bed, and then you want to put a cap in his head. And then you want to sit up there and drop your camisole in the toilet. In the case of Judge McKnight, you want to drop your camisole in the toilet so that it gets rid of the inevitable. I mean, inevitably, you knew that there was residue. But you thought because you had gotten away with pulling a gun on your husband, and that went away, with tampering with all of the stuff that they mentioned in that last clip with her child being, getting the tickets and all of this other stuff. You thought because you got away with it, that you were going to continue to get away with it. She didn't think, what am I going to do if this don't work? And then if I do this to him, how do I explain it? Yeah, well, maybe that's a lesson that we need to sit on right now. No matter how far you go, no matter what degree that hangs up on the wall, no matter what office you are sworn into, if you don't protect your personal decisions, they can burn down your public life. When your sneaky link costs you everything, it's never really just about love or lust. It's about legacy, and the legacy you completely demolished. I appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out with me. I really do. You guys are the best. You rock. Yes, you do. For the 12 of you who are still here. We started from the top and now we're here. Okay? We started from the top and now we got 10. We had 29 and now we got 10, but that's okay. That is okay. Hey, Sandy Aaron, how's it going? How's it going? So glad to see you. Thank you so much, you guys, for being here. And William, there you go. Yes, there you go. There you go. All right. All right. And again, I want to welcome our two newest mods. That is a bird chirps, and then Mr. Diecast, Zach. Thank you all for being here. All right, folks. So we got another follow-up that we're going to do. Oh my gosh. I got a follow-up with the Department of Transportation about the guy who was driving. Sarah, you are so welcome. And I thank you guys. But you guys, don't go nowhere yet, because I want to tell you what we're going to be talking about next. We're doing a follow-up with regards to the guy from India who was driving that truck. Boy, oh boy, wait until you hear it. I may just put it together in like a 1-minute short, really quick here, and then just upload it for you guys to see it. So make sure that you guys keep your bell notifications on, and make sure that you have hit the like button. And I think that's it. But yeah, I want you guys to make sure that you listen to this, because it shows that this guy was roaming around, and he started out in Washington State. And Trump's administration made sure they came right out and said exactly what was up by following the paper trail with regards to this cat who was involved in that accident. Now, don't you know we're going to start slanting more towards the stuff that moves the nation? We are. I said it the other day. We're going to start moving more into dealing with the stuff that's going on with trucks, planes, trains, automobiles, all the stuff that's under the wire. The other stuff that's going on right now, I think, is as it always is a distraction from the other stuff that hampers out the nuts and bolts of our society. The nuts and bolts of our society is stuff like, job numbers and the trucks and the buses and the railways and all that stuff is so important. So anyway, you guys, I appreciate each and every one of you for hanging out with us this morning at the Lockhart Radio Podcast. You guys rock the Casbah. I love each and every one of you. Let me give you the faces of the chicks that just can't make it right. Here, I'm going to give you the pictures. I wish I had put it on a wheel so I could play some music. Oh, let me see. Can I play some music? Day after day. Let me see. Put some music and then put their faces up here, because I don't want nobody to forget them. What do we got? Let's put this one. No, I don't want to hear that one. Yeah, I think that's the one. Sounds like it's got a little bit of adventure. Yeah. Now, let's put their faces. We're going to parade them out there in the street. Just to let you guys know, I'm not taking my foot off the neck of anybody who looks like me, because I believe that if it's done wrong and it's done in the public, it's going to get told. And I'm going to be the one to tell it, and I'm going to be the one to talk about it, because we need to change. We have to change. If we don't change, like I said last year, all of these people who are making these kind of mistakes, not just these ladies, but also the woman up there in New York, if we don't stamp them out and stop them, then nobody else is going to want to have anything to do with anybody who looks anything remotely like us. That's the truth. So we have to speak up, and we have to speak out against things that are wrong, and not give everybody a pass. Because once you start giving people a pass, the people who are good, and they'll be good for everybody, black, white, purple, yellow, or green, they will be good for everybody. They won't even get a foot in, because of the trash that these individuals have done and the bad taste that they have left in the mouth of the citizenry of the city or states that they represent. And that's the problem. That is why I do what I do. That is the reason why I put my foot on our own neck. And I make us accountable, and I make sure that I point out these kinds of things. There are so many different things that are wrong, that if these individuals are not held accountable, no one would ever know about it because we're too busy looking at this trash and can't nothing get fixed. These people did not just represent the people who look like them in their community. They represented everybody. And at the same time, they failed everybody the same exact way. You guys make sure that you take care of yourselves, because if you don't take care of yourself, ain't nobody else going to do it. Trust me and believe me, they won't. But then I want you to make sure you go get you some sauce. Peace. Hey everyone, it's me, Felicia, of the Lockhart Perspective and Headlines with a Voice. I want to tell you a little secret. This is what I used to do, because I don't do it anymore. I would go to the store, buy the barbecue sauce, pour it inside of a bowl, put a whole bunch of different spices, a dash of brown sugar, a dash of maple, and a dash of mustard, stir it all around, and everybody would be like, oh my gosh, this is the best, this is the best. But I was exhausted after all of that, and a lot of times I couldn't remember how many dashes of what I put in it. But I don't have to do that anymore, because now I just go to Judge Joe Brown's website and I order his 3-pack of bottled barbecue sauce. It is by far the best, and I do mean the best barbecue sauce I've ever eaten. And when you go to his website and you order his 3-pack, you'll see exactly what I mean. Head on over to jjbbbbq.com and order Judge Joe Brown's barbecue sauce. You'll be glad you did, and you're going to tell me about it. I know you will. To receive instant notification each time I upload, please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification.
Helping